I think the world would be a better place if people would spend less time judging certain situations and people and instead observe and accept what's happening for what it really is and then think, now what? Now what can we do? What does this mean? So, narcissism and codependency. Before I start talking about the relationship between the narcissist and the codependent, I just want to put this out there that some people have in the back of their mind that codependency is almost like this noble way of existing. Basically, trying to exist and live your life through another person, almost as if you're doing some good. Codependency is extremely toxic, and codependents are fully dependent on the other person for their own validation. And that's a very toxic way of living. But narcissists and codependents, why do they come together? And why can that relationship be so devastating? Both narcissists and codependents most likely would have experienced similar trauma as children when they were being brought up. And it's that trauma that brings them together. Because narcissists are looking for people who are willing to fully focus themselves on the narcissist. Narcissists are looking for people who are willing to devote their energy, their life, to the narcissist and the narcissist cause. For them, that's a good supply, at least at the beginning. So they look for people who will easily be all in, which also means they'll ignore the red flags and they won't run. Because one of the problems that narcissists have is that most people who might otherwise be good supply for them, once they see the red flags, they're out. And when you're with a narcissist, you're always going to see red flags. From day one, you're going to see red flags. So the codependent, they're quickly all in, so they kind of fit the basic criteria for being good narcissistic supply. But the thing with the codependent is, so the codependent is looking for a purpose. The codependent is looking for a host, somebody whose life they can borrow and kind of live their life through that person to feel they have some kind of purpose in themselves. And to do that, codependents make this new person the center point of their world. And codependents like people who come across as kind of arrogant, overconfident. It spills off on them in a very good way. It makes them feel purposeful. But codependents, when they attach to a narcissist, they very quickly start expecting certain things in return. And it's that expectation where the codependent, at some point, they do want to feel validated by the narcissist. They do want to have their own needs met. That's where the relationship goes sour between the narcissist and the codependent. Because while narcissists at the beginning, they're very pro allowing the codependent to come into their life and start a relationship with them if they feel they can get their needs met with that person. At the beginning, the codependent only gives, is trying to be a part of the narcissist in a way, like their extension. And narcissists like that at first. But it's when the narcissist has to reciprocate anything meaningful in return that the narcissist starts to think, okay, we have a problem here, because narcissists are not giving in nature. They don't have enough inner reservoirs of energy, affection to give, not continuously. Narcissists can only give to somebody. They can only try to please you if they're trying to get something out of you for the future. But narcissists must always be getting much more in return than they're giving, than they're giving back. So that while narcissists can come across quite, charitable in the early stages, they can never sustain that. But with a codependent, over time, the codependent expects more and more, and they start becoming demanding. And then the narcissist obviously cannot meet those needs of the codependent. And even if the narcissist tried, they themselves would feel immediately depleted. Then you have this issue. So it's a strange one, because narcissists and codependents, they both would have experienced some form of childhood trauma where they don't have healthy attachments. Narcissists, to feel validated, they need somebody to prop them up. They need somebody to meet the needs of their ego. They need somebody to devote themselves fully to the narcissist. Narcissists want somebody to make them the center of the universe, the center of the world. That's how narcissists really feel validated. But that's where it stops. Narcissists want somebody to do that to them, but the narcissists don't want to have to reciprocate anything back. So, and that's because narcissists, as kids growing up, they never received the right type of affection and healthy emotional attachments with their caregivers. They never felt validated on an emotional level, and they felt unworthy, shameful, because they never had their needs met, their basic needs met. They felt something was wrong with them, and it's that overcompensation later in life that they're always after. And then the codependent is like the perfect person to help them feel validated. The codependent, on the other hand, also growing up wouldn't have had their needs met as children, wouldn't have had healthy attachments with their caregivers. And codependents, that at some point they just would have felt basically invisible, basically like they themselves don't really exist, they don't have a purpose. And so codependents, the way they deal with countering that trauma is to try to associate with somebody who will let them be their extension, so that they can feel like they're living life through the other person. And of course, narcissists are, they're happy to be obliged because they get supply out of that at the beginning. But as you can see, it's not sustainable, because at some point the codependent expects something back, which the narcissist can never give. But it's an interesting one, because of course, a lot of people who are not narcissists or who are not codependents do have narcissistic traits, do have codependent traits. But when you look at people who are on the extreme end of those spectrums, you can see how they come together naturally. And codependents are not healthy people. Codependents try to seek validation by getting someone to fully devote to them back, once they've almost intruded on the person's boundaries by living beneath the person's skin. So, of course, neither one is healthy. You can't really have a healthy relationship with a codependent. You can't really have a healthy relationship with a narcissist. Relationships with people like that should be quite superficial. But it's interesting because you see that a lot in society. And you see how these people come together and how things just don't work out. And if you were with a narcissist, if you watching this video were with a narcissist, or if you've been with more than one narcissist, then I'm not saying you are a codependent, but there's a very high chance you are a codependent. And there's a very high chance, even if you're not a codependent, that you do have certain traits, because people who are not high in codependent traits are less likely to be good supply for the narcissist. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that video, and as always, thanks for watching.